Our next presenter is Dr. Phil Dwyer. Phil is the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for ThatchZyme, and he'll be discussing new and proven enzyme strategies for sprayable thatch management. Phil, it's great to see you again, and welcome to Spring Solutions Madness.
Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Dwyer. I'm with the ThatchZyme team, and happy to be sharing new insights into thatch management. We have a sprayable thatch management product, and happy to tell the golf course industry all about this. And let's dive into the content. First, let's look at our team here. So, based out of Colorado Springs, Colorado, it was founded by our members here, Tad Huber and Michael Cantrell. We'll go into the neat story of how this unique sprayable enzyme called ThatchZyme came to become a useful tool for golf course managers. Tad is a chemical engineer. Michael is has a PhD in botany. So together they've been working on commercializing this new concept. Mark Slavin's joined the team this year as well. He has a background in turfgrass research, as do I. And so that's the team here. Let's jump into our content. Starting out with thatch. This is going to be all about thatch and thatch management here. But as we look at thatch, the classical definition is, it's an intermingled layer of dead and live plant parts. In small amounts, thatch is fine. It's when it becomes excess, when we get a heavy layer of thatch, that it starts to cause some issues and requires management. And so what are the causes of this excess accumulation? Well, one being wet soils, poor oxygen flow. It starts to accumulate. Think of like peat bogs, where over the centuries the peat accumulates over time and just gets thicker and thicker. Well, that's what happens on our micro scale here on our greens, tees, and fairways. Very heavy soils where it's hard for the turf to root. You'll have more growth on the surface and increase in thatch. But essentially, the thatch accumulation begins when the growth rate exceeds the decomposition rate. So there's a natural decomposition that occurs from microbes in the soil, microbial breakdown. But there's one piece that's quite unique here in turfgrass thatch, and that is a component called lignin. We're going to talk a lot about lignin here today. Lignin, think of this as a biopolymer. It can be hydrophobic. It can be found in the stolons and the rhizomes, and it's there to protect those growing points. Issues with too much thatch, poor rooting, firmness on our putting greens, especially ball plugging and such. You get scalping, uneven mowing, and certain diseases can be harbored and be growing in the thatch zone there to cause issues. One being fairy rings that are breaking down that thatch and creating hydrophobic zones and unsightly rings. And localized dry spot is more pronounced in that thick excess thatch zone. Management, it's costly, disruptive to manage thatch. There's many tools out there, from plugging, coring, dragging, adding sand top dressing, vertical mowing. Those are the mechanical ones, and we're going to talk a little bit about those right here, and then see how the sprayable solution can be a new management tool to include in the overall management strategy on courses. We've all been behind an aerifier here, taking plugs out of greens, fairways to help remedy thatch accumulation here. A lot of work, a lot of labor, but it's been an important practice over time. Next, we come in with a lot of sand to dilute that thatch, to fill in the holes. Then also dragging, breaking up some of those the cores that we take out, and blowing off the thatch and returning the soil into that thatch zone to help alleviate thatch accumulation. Couple things to consider as we look at mechanical thatch management. One, the direct costs. We have very expensive equipment, materials that all have to be maintained and used for this thatch management. So in addition to that, high labor costs for our cultural practices here. But there's also indirect costs. Course closures, reduced green fees, disruption to the overall operation there. So indirect costs are equally an issue in standard thatch management practices. So looking at all of these practices that we try, what really breaks down thatch? Yeah, you've got the physical removal, coring, taking the plugs out, adding sand. You're diluting the amount of thatch there with the sand addition. Better soil aeration, less moisture, expedites the breakdown of thatch. But one of the big ones is dragging those soil cores and plugs, because what we're doing when we're dragging those plugs, we're breaking up the soil, returning it in that came from the lower parts of our profile, bringing that to the surface so that the microbes that are in that soil, the fungi that are in that soil, can then go to work, putting them in closer contact to that thatch zone to help it break down. One piece to consider is, why is this thatch so hard to degrade? And we talked about this lignin here. And so lignin, being the biopolymer here, it's a component of your plant cell wall. Within that plant cell wall, you have cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. I like to think of lignin as sort of the rerod in a concrete wall, whereas the cellulose, the hemicellulose are the pieces within that wall. That lignin is what's really giving it structure, holding it, holding the whole cell wall there together. And once you can break down that lignin, the rest of the system will start to collapse, degrade more rapidly through normal microbial processes. But lignin's hard to degrade because it requires specific enzymes to break it down that are produced primarily by fungi. Think of a fun way to look at this is, lignin is the wrapper. And in order to get to the candy inside, the cellulose here that's easier to degrade, that bacteria can degrade quite rapidly, you've got to remove that wrapper in order to get to into the greater food source in there. And so looking at what happens naturally, say in a forest system. So we harvest fungi for various reasons, but naturally occurring, you start over there on the left with a brand new piece of wood that's been split and dried. If you brought that inside and kept it out of the moisture, it would last indefinitely. But once it falls onto the forest floor, and there's enough moisture for the fungi to survive, they start to colonize our wood here, and use enzymes to break down something as hard as wood. And over time, the trees, they disappear, they get recycled back into the soil and turned into humus and enrich the soil. So using this here, the point is that fungi produce very specific enzymes that can accelerate the natural decay process. And so some turfgrass researchers at the University of Georgia, Sadeep Sidhu and Paul Raymer's lab here, really dug into how could we take some of those novel enzymes and apply them to turfgrass for managing thatch as one more tool in our arsenal. They recognize the same problems that we all see, disruption, the cost, in managing thatch, and they sought to find this non-disruptive alternative. Through their work, they were able to find the lignolytic enzyme called Laccase. And they found a couple of really interesting things about this Laccase enzyme, a fungal-derived enzyme. So the research showed that, one, it provides significant reduction in thatch, but two, it also reduces soil water repellency. So it can break down organic acids that are forming in our sand coatings, and so it can reduce water repellency, as well as when you minimize thatch, you reduce the repellency of that thatch zone as well. So many benefits here that they found, and did some great work establishing the science of understanding this enzyme. And so how it works, back to the lignin here, this Laccase, which is the hallmark of our ThatchZyme product, is what we're spraying on the turf to break down that lignin and then allow the other microbes that are in your soil to do the rest of the work there. the Laccase, though it's present in soil, it's there at very low rates. And so what we're doing is just providing a supplemental very high rate of a very active and potent form of Laccase that's targeted to a spray application to accelerate this natural process. And so that's how our ThatchZyme works. To understand enzymes, quite simply, an enzyme it's like a protein that speeds up chemical reactions. And so without them, things slow down or stop completely. So the enzyme activity it's also important to know that it increases with temperature. So in the warm summer months, when thatch is accumulating, this enzyme activity is going to be happening faster as well, as does areas of high oxygen. So aerobic conditions, higher temperatures improve the efficacy of these enzyme activity. It's also pretty neat to understand specific enzymes do specific things. So our grass clippings, they decompose rapidly in our roughs and our fairways where we may be returning clippings, and they are mostly cellulose-based. And so the cellulases that are in the in your being produced by bacteria in the soil quickly break down those clippings, whereas the Laccase is specific to lignin. Those are a little harder to find, obviously, because the fungi are slower growers, and that's what we're supplementing here with our ThatchZyme. The first ideas around creating this commercial product by Tad and Michael, our founders, were based on this notion of the thatch collapse disease. So John Kaminsky at Penn State, professor there, did some work and identified this certain fungi that was causing this condition called thatch collapse disease, where you'd have these sunken areas especially more noticeable on putting greens, that would affect ball roll play, smoothness there. It's simply the fungi is colonizing the thatch zone, breaking it down really fast, and you get these sunken areas. And so our Tad and Michael looked at this and said, what if we could make the high concentration of it and spray it uniformly to do the same? And that was the start of the ThatchZyme venture. From there, we take proprietary fungal strains. We have proprietary fermentation cycles, extraction systems, where we grow up the fungi. We use the fungi to grow on different substrates, and from there, we then measure our Laccase units, and so we know exactly how many units are in each batch here to get the right responses for reducing thatch. And then we end with a finished concentrate for you to spray. It's important to note also that Laccase, it varies in the types. Different sources produce Laccases of different strength. And so, as I mentioned earlier, like in the soil, you have a baseline of Laccase. Otherwise, nothing would ever degrade. So Laccase is being produced by soil fungi, bacteria, but at low rates, rates that are less than what's needed to decompose thatch. That's why we have accumulation of it. Bacteria do produce it, but it's a lower potency than the fungal derived Laccases. And so what we have done is at ThatchZyme, we have an advanced fermentation system and insights into how to make a very potent form of Laccase designed for managing thatch. And that's what sets us apart in the spectrum of Laccase activity. When we look at comparing ThatchZyme versus mechanical aeration and other practices, one unique thing is that we're able to get better coverage there. So when we're spraying, we're watering the ThatchZyme into the thatch zone, you're getting more even coverage, more even application, and better potential to manage thatch over time here. And it's applied as a program. This is a monthly program, minimum of 3 months that we recommend here, more depending on what your conditions are, or whether you're maintaining or trying to correct an issue. The work began in 2021, 2022, 2023. We had a a large trial here where courses across the country had test sites, and they would sample and compare what changes in thatch occurred on these sites that were treated right next to those that were not treated. And what we found was about a 16% reduction in average organic matter during the course of this season. And so it was a great proof of concept of what the original research said that this enzyme would do, now bringing it out to the golf courses for us to see what are the superintendents, what are the Turfgrass managers going to experience when using ThatchZyme. One of the sites, here's went a little bit longer, starting in 21. This is a POA bent T there on the left. What you'll notice is from September of 21 to August of 23, we made ThatchZyme applications over those seasons, over time, and measured the organic matter in the top 2 centimeters here. And what we found was the untreated, when we stopped mechanical aeration, top dressing, such, the untreated continued to increase. So very high organic matter on this T, whereas the ThatchZyme treated plots there maintained their organic matter. Whereas on the right, now at the end of the study, we turned this around and said, can we take this area that had very, very high thatch, and when we started treating with ThatchZyme, we were able to quickly bring the amount of thatch down there. So whether you're using it to manage, to maintain, or correct an issue that's there to treat and reverse an issue, you have 2 different strategies, and either way, the enzyme has been the ThatchZyme product has been effective here. This past summer, we did a trial with Professor Kevin Frank at Michigan State, looking at various rates, application intervals, and such. And so this was on a very thatchy creeping bentgrass putting green. And we'll go through the treatments. We've got 1 was our untreated control, 2 is ThatchZyme at 0.8 ounces applied twice per month. Treatment 3 is that same rate applied once per month. And then we have treatments 4 and 5 have some different organic inputs with and without ThatchZyme, seeing if the organic inputs could help accelerate or allow us to use a lower rate here. The treatment started in June. They were all statistically equal, same amount of organic matter in that thatch layer. And then 1 month into this, though the enzyme's working, we're still awaiting a significant difference between these treatments. But by that August date, we do see a significant reduction in the organic matter beginning, and by September, it continues to improve there on all the treatments that had the ThatchZyme added to it. So in a randomized trial here, replicated research, we were able to show a significant reduction in thatch management in a 3-month period here. As I looked out, though, at the industry right now, there are many products that are on the market, that have been on the market. And the first thing I did was started to compare what's in them. So on the left there, the blue column, these are the general ingredients, proof or lack thereof, as we look at the whole category here. Many have nutrients, they're nitrogen-based. Others have surfactants to help increase moisture, obviously, or improve moisture flow in the system. Some have sugars to feed the microbes. Some have bacteria. Again, those are primarily cellulose degraders. And some have fungi, or to make claims of that the fungi are reducing thatch. Found humics and fulvic acids. Some had cellulase, so the direct enzyme. Ours was the only one with the Laccase. And then we also looked at who had scientific research, university field trials, or multi-course testing. So as I dug into all of the main products that are out there, I have came up with this table. And so looking at the four products, product A, B, C, and D, versus ThatchZyme, you can see what many of them are nutrient based, surfactant based. They're adding bacteria, and we are the only ones with the Laccase. Not only do we have Laccase, we have the cellulase, we have humic acid. In our ThatchZyme, it's 8% humic acid. There are resting bacteria in there, so dormant bacteria. But I think one of the most important parts, and as you've seen, is we're able to stand behind our products and its efficacy based on scientific research, university field trials, and actual course testing. And so it's been neat to be part of developing this product, this work here for the industry. And as we look at over time, looking at the turfgrass industry and the evolution of our product categories, how many cultural practices or inputs went from the labor budget to the product spray budget. And we have, what are the defined needs? Well, to have a golf course, we need turfgrass. We need it to be able to recover and grow from stress and wear. We need pest control inputs. We need water management, mowing regulation, and thatch management. And so you've seen the evolution of each of these industries, the grass seed, then to feeding that grass seed fertilizer, granular fertilizers, liquid fertilizers, pesticides for disease, insect, weeds, and then the surfactants. There was a time when we didn't have surfactants, but now they're added and used throughout all the summer months for mowing, reducing mowing clippings. The PGRs have come into play. So this is a new category, definitely for turfgrass management, where we're looking to save in labor by supplementing with enzymatic breakdown of thatch in thatch management, and that's where ThatchZyme comes into play. Directions for use. The product is used in a program. Again, you're going to want to water once you apply it. Water it into that target thatch zone. It can dry. It's okay. You can combine it with other chemistries, fertilizers, pesticides. It's durable enough. It'll be fine. If you're on mineral soils, native soils, let's say fairways, tees, lawns, sports fields, a lower rate can be effective here. And the reason is because those soils have a higher microbial ecology, usually less of a thatch issue. Whereas you've got heavy thatch, let's say greens, where you're accumulating at a higher rate, thatch, those sand-based soils, then try the higher rate here of 0.4 ounces every 14 days or 0.8 ounces monthly. To summarize it, here we're offering the first proven sprayable thatch control enzyme for turfgrass managers. Our goal here is to provide you one more tool in your arsenal. It's a non-disruptive tool here for managing thatch or in your organic matter. As I just mentioned, it's a program approach. So minimum of 3 months, more depending on what your conditions are, where you are in the country. If you're in Florida versus up in the Dakotas, obviously your growing season will vary here. The price is $180 per acre, and that's about a 1 quart per acre, the 0.8 ounce rate there for your greens, your sand-based soils, and it'll be about $90 an acre for your fairways, other areas where you're maintaining thatch there. We're a new company. You can order directly from us. And we are though bringing on distributors here by the month, and we'll direct you to those for help as well. I'm happy to get any emails that you want to send, phil@thatchzyme.com, or you can contact us at sales@thatchzyme.com. So with that, thank you for allowing us to be part of this educational seminar, and I'll happy to answer any questions that may arise.
Well, Phil, that was some great information. Thanks for an awesome presentation. We do have a few questions here. The first one is ThatchZyme compatible in tank mixes?
Yeah, that's a question we often get. This is a durable enzyme in that you can pair it with your pesticides, your fertilizers, and surfactants. Anytime you're looking at a soil-directed spray, say a surfactant application where you're going to water it in anyways, that's a great time to combine these two.
What temperatures, Phil, are ideal for the ThatchZyme enzyme to work best?
Yeah, at higher temperatures, you're going to have more enzyme activity. And so in the north, once you start mowing, your grass is actively growing there. That's when you can begin your applications, and it can go into the fall months. So up here in Ohio, where I live, I would say late April into late September. Those are your prime application months, and June, July, August being the best just because of higher temperatures.
Phil, can other common spray components help with efficacy? And what is your recommended program for applications?
Yeah, good question. Other pieces that I would pair with this would be surfactants. You get good coverage from any of your spray solutions when a surfactant is added, and so the same would be here with ThatchZyme, and plus you're watering in those surfactants, and this would help get the ThatchZyme into that thatch zone where it's going to do its work.
Anything else you want to add, Phil? And where can people, again, go to find more about ThatchZyme?
Yeah, you can visit our website at thatchzyme.com. Feel free to send me an email at phil@thatchzyme.com, or for sales inquiries, visit sales@thatchzyme.com, and we'll be happy to work with you and build a quote to help you succeed with using ThatchZyme at your course.
Well, thanks again, Phil, for joining the Spring Solutions Madness. We always enjoy hearing you speak. It was great seeing you in person last week, and keep up the great work, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thanks, Guy.